Hi everyone, we're going to take a look at the homework review for your quiz. So as you can see, here are the answers to question number 1. I just am going to point out a couple things that are very important to me. So when I'm writing out the vertex, we had to kind of estimate here. So on your quiz, it'll definitely be a lot more clear. Notice how we have this as a point. So there's a comma with parentheses, like that's a big deal. Roots. In this case, there was just one root right down here. Notice the format is x equals 5. The y-intercept is a point. I can't tell you how many points we have to take off because of notations. So if it's written as x equals 5 right here, it better look like x equals 5 on your paper. Some people might have written 5, 0 in parentheses. You would have actually lost a point for that for the roots. Same with the y-intercept. If you had just written 80, you would have lost a point. Axis of symmetry. It's the line that cuts the parabola right in half. It goes right through the vertex. It's always x equals. This equation here, it was easiest for me to get the equation by using the vertex. Notice how it was negative. It's concave down. It's an upside down parabola, so it's negative x minus 2l squared plus 145. It's a shift of 2 to the right and 145 up. The decreasing interval is from 2 to 5. Remember, decreasing interval is x values only, and the maximum is the highest y value. Notation, notation, notation. Let's move on to number 2. Here's the range. Y is greater than -3. There's a couple other ways that you could have written it. You could also have written it as, let me just write it down on here. Where's my pen? Oh, it's over here. Sorry, it's going to take me a second to get this out. Okay, sorry if that was loud. What we could have also have done is we could have written it as -3 all the way to infinity. Okay, range, low to high, -3 all the way to infinity. Number 3, here's the vertex. We have to find the vertex of both of these. It's really easy to do an A because it's a shift of 10 to the right and 2 down. Also, when in doubt, graph it out. You could literally graph this whole thing, get it right off your calculator. B, we look for the rainbow pattern and the point in the middle. And notice how I had to actually write it off to the side. Don't just circle it. Make sure that you actually write it. Did you hear that? Don't just circle it on the table, actually write it. State your answer. All right, here we go with number 4. Number 4 has a kind of a bit going on with it. Check out the table of values that I wrote. So I wrote out a table of values. I graphed it. I changed the window. I used clues to help me. Like this right here, the domain, the x values have to go from 0 all the way to 90. So that told me I had to go from 0 all the way to 90. Then I wrote down my table to know how high up I have to go. Sometimes you guys like to smush your graphs in and like count by 5s on this side or whatever you do. So that way your graph only takes up like a little tiny part of this entire graph. No, make sure your function looks nice. This is what we need to talk about here down below. State its vertex. So notice how I wrote it, 45, 9. And then I had to interpret it means in the context of the question. So I wrote it, the vertex is this point here, right up top, it's maximum. And then in context means after 45 seconds, the object is 9 feet in the air. It's at its maximum height. All right, 5. Here we go with writing the equation of g of x. Oops, hang on, there's a mistake here. Did you find it? Yep, has to be g of x. So f of x is x squared plus 7. So what we're going to do is we are going to shift 3 to the right and 5 down. So in order to get the equation of g of x, we're going to shift it 5 to the right and 3 to the right and 5 down. So 3 inside parentheses, the inside lies, the outside tells the truth. G of x is going to equal x minus 3 all squared plus 2. Here's number 6. How does this graph compare? Well, there's 4 changes. That negative flips it over the x-axis. The 2 makes the parabola thinner. Inside lies, so 8 to the left, and the outside tells the truth, 3 down. equation of a parabola that's concave up. So that means that this here needs to be positive. You didn't have to write that, but if it has a vertex at -2, 9, remember the inside lies, so it's +2 where it was in -2 as a point, and then +9 because it was 9 up. And lastly, number 8, what is the axis of symmetry equation? Remember, if they give you the zeros, you can get the axis of symmetry by just slicing it right down the middle, halfway. So 2 is a halfway point between -2 and 6. 2 more. Number 9, write this function in vertex form. This is just completing the square. This is all review from Unit 5, but we also did it again in Unit 6, which is great. So we needed to find what number completed this square. Half of -10 is -5. -5 times -5 is 25. If I add 25, I have to subtract away 25. So this 23 and -25 are friends, become -2. And then we just write it in a nice pretty package. Notice how it said f of x, so I kept it f of x. Number 10, algebraically find the zeros. F of x has to become 0. That's something that we talked a lot about over the past couple of days in class. Then we factor it, set each of the factors equal to 0, and then we get our answer. If you wanted to check yourself before you wreck yourself, you can graph this original equation and then just find the zeros on there to make sure that you didn't make a weird little mistake, like say 11 and 2 instead of 10 and 3 or something like that. All right, if you need to, pause the video, rewind it, watch it as many times as you need. This is all of the stuff that's going to be on the quiz. So if you know how to do this without my help, you're in great shape. If you made mistakes, what would I suggest? Think. If you just thought, oh, I should redo the question and cover up all of my work that I got wrong on and redo it and then see if I got it right, then you are a winner. So good luck. Hope you do great on the quiz.